This thing is super fun. I've just been taking stuff that I've recorded on my phone over like the past couple of years, and just sampling it
Like
with
dumping
this.
it in there.
And this is at the Archie Bray
Oh, yeah.
giant kiln. That's my voice, no effects on it. It's kind of crazy. Like when people ask you, oh, what do you write about? That's like an impossible question, because generally it's just...
I should ask you some more questions.
You look at like a branch blowing in the wind or something, and maybe it's not the branch necessarily, but maybe everything you've been experiencing as of late or in your life kind of comes forward, and you put it into that branch, and so you write about it, and the way you describe the branch and the wind, depending on how you're feeling, comes through. I think performance, whether you're just reading a poem or doing like a performance art piece or performing music, I think it's important that there's room for improvisation or room for things to go wrong. I mean, literally you can be reading a poem in front of your face and misread things, but you just keep going. I think the immediacy of the performance is what's really important. I'm really interested at the moment to explore how we, I was kind of touched on this, but how we put our present lives on work constructed in the past, or like, in a way, like how are we relating to these things? How are we projecting onto these things? And like what that is. This one, I love this. Thomas Merton is like an old, like a monk, like a Trappist monk. I don't know, the ones that live in monasteries. But he wrote this like super badass poetry that was, he has this line like, I too have slept all night in that stolen Cadillac. It's like, well, what kind of monk is writing that stuff? But he has this, I think it must stay open all night in beautiful cellars. I think, especially right now, art is moving a lot more towards like social cause, and like it always has, but like in a lot of museums, we're seeing a lot more work that's stating social realities of oppression and injustice, which I think is fantastic. But even those works, there's still room to relate. Like they're making these experiences relatable because it's important that all people can relate to forms of oppression, or like recognize and feel how fucked up it is. I think art in a vacuum is difficult. I mean, if it exists outside of any context, like social context, then what is it? I mean, it can't really, but I think a community is so important, and because if we can't relate to each other, if we can't like feel for one another in terms of community, in terms of like sharing space and working together, then that's how we get to a point of like stopping people, throwing tear gas over the border. I want to sacrifice like my comfort with privilege and like allowing, like just taking up space and allowing myself to like take up space and use my privilege however I want, and drive more at like art as a way to become a better person, and like as a way to expunge things that have been conditioned. I mean, it's like it's such a line to play between like a lot of just like total self-doubt and total like vanity.
Yeah.
like always.
Uh-huh.
And
Like, I just find myself wondering, like, would you make, if you were on a planet by yourself, like, what would your art be? Would you make anything?
I don't
I
know
wonder.
if I like grew up on a planet.
Yeah, like if you were all by yourself, like on the moon.
I would probably not.
Probably not.
Just because like, I mean, I don't know. I can't say anything, but what would my experiences be? Like, I think a lot of my art comes from experiences with other people and like how I feel like I'm relating to the world populated by people. Writing it has always felt, I mean, aside from this part, like, I've always felt it like I'm pulling a rope out sometimes with my chest. And words have always had a really physical quality to me. And like, what was I thinking of a word? Oh, you know what? There's a great Sylvia Plath line that I think illustrates this. Or C.D. Wright too. But yeah, I like, in the physicality, I want to bring that forward, and it being a live thing, that it's immediate and that there's like an urgency. Oh my God, there's like, all these quotes are popping up in my head. I think I can remember this. There's this line that goes, the smoke, oh yeah, smoke rolls in scarves in the grove. Like, there's such a tactile sensation, like the scarving of the smoke and like the grove, you can like feel the grass and all this. Looking at the world not as you've perceived it your whole life, but like as it presents itself to you in that moment. I never want to try to like make a statement about a universal truth. I don't believe universal truths. Like, I that's identify with postmodernism in that way, and then like, but like, it's okay to be sentimental about your truth and your feelings. Like, you don't have to be so ironic. Like, postmodernism is like so ironic about it all the time, like turning in on itself and in on itself in a way that's like, well, who cares now? It's like you just like,
Yeah.
I mean, not all of it, but in terms of performance, I think recontextualizing, you know, how we're looking at whatever it is. Like, this is a lot easier. The latest performance I did was a piece about toxic masculinity and all this, but I got 4 volunteers that identified as cishet men, and I strung blue string, and it's all very obvious, but I'll get to that. I strung blue string, 3 like pieces of blue yarn around them. So it's like a boxing ring, and they're in a square. And then I attached this pink dress to the ground with like clear wire, and then I came out with sort of cellophane wrapped around my head over my eyes, and then I put on these big mittens and attached these wires to the dress so that when I came up like this, it was, you know, off the ground. And then I was punching myself in the face and like punching the air and saying these things like, you know, why do you cry? Why are you crying? Are you weak? You know, do you remember what about your father? Like, did you see him cry? Do you remember your mother? Like, how do you cry? And like, it was this progression going down of this character, you know, asking themselves like, why are you doing that? Like, these masculine ideas of pushing emotions down, emotion as weakness,
Mm-hmm.
And the construction of femininity that they're opposing, that is, I mean, doesn't really get to have a say in the matter and all this.
Mm-hmm.
It does have a say in the matter, but in terms of this piece, that's part of the toxicity. I mean, I just cried in front of an audience. Like, I didn't try to compose myself at all, and it felt so good, and the performance, like, was so, I mean, it's so obvious, the pink and blue and all this, but it's so immediate and it's temporary. Like, that performance is like, I wanted to do those colors and these recognizable things because you can see, oh, cishet men, a ring, like a box, a cage. And you're making these blue string, making these associations so immediately. In the pink dress and like the boxer and imagery and like this speech of it, like, why are you crying, all this. I think there's like a power in that immediacy and a power in that like immediate recognition. And then like just the raw emotion of it, like, really, I think brings it all that to life. Because if you're just doing all of that and it was also rehearsed and constructed, then it'd just be contrived.
Is this the piece also? Like, when does this piece stop? Because it sounds like this piece is like still kind of happening. I mean, it's your piece, not mine, but it's also this community's piece, and also your processing after it seems like really important because you're noticing these things coming in.
Yeah.
That's really interesting.
I think that's like, I mean, no painting or poem is finished, and like the way performance, I feel the same because it is temporary. It has to live somewhere. I mean, in your memory, and then you can't really escape it. So I think it does. It is continuing in that way, and like how I have this not huge. I have this manuscript of poems that I wrote a couple years ago, and I'm really proud of it. Like, I've edited it. It's like some 90 pages. I've edited it like I don't know how many times. But when I first finished it, I was like, I'm not gonna fucking publish this. Like, I'm just proud of making it, But that writing it was really important for me at that time. Processing, it was after my sister's passing. I was processing it through this work. Processing and not processing is kind of a strange experience. But it's like, if I can put it out there and someone who is grieving in whatever way can relate to it, and it can help them in the way that it helped me, like, why not try to put it out there at least, just because if like it can help one person, then it's worth it. I don't know, what do you like? Is there a kind of poetry you like to read? Or something you're interested in? I mean, obviously I'm not going to give you just any of these because it's not really important to me, but I don't know. Have you read Frank O'Hara? This is a great one.
Lunch poems?
Yeah, part of the series, but Frank O'Hara is awesome.
Where?
He was in New York school.
I'll read that for sure.
John Ashbery and the like.
Oh.
And they're just super fun, like funny
Uh-huh.
poems, and also poignant and like really intense at times. He has one line in here about the clouds. Like rails of milk or something. Oh yeah, wait.